10 years ago, if I said to you that I wanted to buy a watch that was automatic, had an aventurine dial, and a jump hour mechanism, you might have said, okay, get ready to spend a few $1,000s. However, today we're taking a look at a watch that actually costs $149 and gets all of those specs. We have another version of this watch. It has a guilloche dial, which is of course stamped. However, that watch costs $139 for an automatic jump hour dress watch. It's pretty incredible. So let's flip the camera and take a look at one of the most affordable, complicated watches that I have ever featured on my channel. It's a Sugess, and it is a jump hour dress watch. So here they are. I have two versions to show you guys. This is the salmon version. It's the cheaper version. It's actually $139. This is the aventurine version, which is $149, which I think is pretty incredible for a watch with an aventurine dial, a jump hour, small seconds, and an automatic movement. Now, the movement inside this watch isn't the most expensive movement that you're going to find. It is a seagull movement. I believe they are the ST1721, which is a very typical Chinese movement. You find it in a lot of very cheap watches. So it's not the most spectacular movement that you're ever going to find. However, what they've done here is made something that's a little bit different. This has a small seconds, and you have that jump hour feature right there. That, I believe, is a little mechanism that they're putting on top of that seagull movement. The small seconds is down at the 6 o'clock. On the salmon dial, you have a guilloche pattern that radiates out from the center. It looks really good. Of course, it's pressed. Who cares? It doesn't look bad for the price, $139. I think that's actually pretty acceptable. And you get a little track. It's an hour track, and then you have a minute track. There's Lume on that minute track. There's Lume on the hand as well. I'm not sure why they put Lume, because they didn't Lume the actual hour. Now, the hour is a little bit difficult to see. The window is small. If I were designing this watch, I would have made the window bigger. Just make it bigger. You don't even need to make the numbers bigger. If you made the window bigger, it would be easier to see. Unfortunately, they didn't do that. So it is a little bit difficult to see. The way that you tell time here is there is the hour, and then the large hand is the minutes hand. And then of course you have a running seconds in that sub-seconds. That's it. You don't get a sapphire crystal on this watch. You do get a mineral crystal, which is, again, something that might be a little bit disappointing to some, but considering the price here, the fact that it has a crystal is a good price. I can't actually knock them for not having a sapphire crystal. I guess from a brand like Sugess, you eventually expect them to give you a sapphire crystal at any price point, but with that being said, it's kind of unfair. This is a very cheap watch. You get a large crown, and you have a very slab-sided case. It's actually not that thick. It's pretty thin at under 11 millimeters thick. That's including that mineral crystal, which is slightly boxed off of the case on this aventurine version. It's around a 38 millimeter watch, so I measured around 37.9 millimeters, 11 millimeters thick, or just under 11 millimeters thick, and then you have about a 45.5 millimeter lug to lug, and of course the crown, which is actually pretty large, is around 6.4 millimeters. That thickness again is including the boxed mineral crystal, which you can actually see is slightly raised off of the case, which looks really good. The case is primarily polished, and then the case back is actually decorated a little bit with some gears. This is an automatic, and it gives you some of the specs on the watch. Not incredible specs here, but you are getting 50 meters of water resistance with that jump hour, mineral glass, and small seconds. So lots going into the watch for the price of $149 for this specific version. While it's flipped over, you can see you get quick release. You have a really nice blue strap. The strap on here is beautiful, and you have a little bespoke buckle, all at this price. Again, really honestly, I don't think you can go wrong with a watch like this. And I would say these are somewhat of an original design. I actually wore this one already out. I really do think it looks a lot more expensive than it actually is. I would say, you know, and I said this in the intro, if this was 10 years ago, this was a Swiss-made watch, it would cost in the thousands of dollars. And the fact that the Chinese can actually produce this for under $200, well under $200, well under $150 for this one. This is $139, is insane. You have blued hands on here, while on the aventurine you have silver hands. The aventurine is even harder to read, although it, I think, looks cooler than the guilloche pattern. I really like the guilloche pattern, but it does look cooler. It's just a solid piece of aventurine. Even the subsecond's just printed on, so you just have a basic full aventurine dial. You have, a stylized hand. I wouldn't call it, I don't even know what you would call it, but you do have lume in there. Again, kind of useless because the hour is not loomed. So if the hour is not loomed, you're not going to be able to see what time it is in the dark. So no matter what, it's kind of pointless. You don't have any other lume on the dial like you do on the guilloche pattern, but it does say Sugess right there. You can see that a little bit better on this version. On my wrist today, I have a Seestern. This is also an homage from the brand. This is obviously an homage to Tudor. They've made some little changes to the watch that make it a little bit different. It's also a hand-wound chronograph, so this gets a seagull movement in it as well. This is the ST19, I believe. Really good-looking watch with, like I said, not a direct homage. It is a direct homage, but not at the same time. It's a little bit different from the original, and I'll make a video about this watch in a few days so you can see what I'm talking about. Very nice watch for the price. Again, they offer very great value. There is the salmon dial on my 7.5-inch wrist. This is around a 38 millimeter watch. You have around a 45.5 millimeter lug span, 11 millimeter stick, or just under 11 millimeter stick, and you can see it wears really nice to the wrist. I think this is a very good looking watch, and specifically this version looks a lot more expensive than it actually is. $139 for this watch, and then the blue aventurine dial is $149. I'm not aware of many watches out there with aventurine dials that cost well under $200, but here's one. This is also a jump hour. Like I said, with these watches, they are a little bit difficult to read because of the hour and how small that window is. If it was a little bit bigger, I think it would be a little bit more legible. This one specifically, if it wasn't color matched, it would be a lot more easy to read. It would be more legible. They probably wouldn't even need to make that window bigger. But there you go. I'm actually not going to do a lume shot because literally the only thing that's loomed on this one is that little bit of lume in the hand there. And on the other version, the salmon version right here, this one has lume in the hand and all around the indices, but it doesn't make all that much sense. I will put up a video of the lume. It's really not that spectacular. But what do you expect for the price on these watches? I think that, obviously you're getting a lot for your money, and they're very good looking watches. A lot more expensive looking than they actually are. And I always say that's a very good thing when you're buying a watch, that it actually looks more expensive than what you paid for it, because that kind of matters. Anyway, tell me what you guys think down in the comments below. What do you think of these watches? What do you think of Sugess? What do you think of Seestern? Obviously these are kind of unique in some way. There are a few brands making these out there, jump hour watches with seagull movements, but I think they're not an homage to anything. They've done some pretty original stuff with them in general, and for the price, getting an somewhat original design is pretty hard. Tell me what you guys think down in the comments below. I want to hear from you guys. Please also don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. Super helpful for the channel, and I very much appreciate it. I'll put a link to both of these watches in the description. If you are interested, definitely click one of those links. And that's really it, guys. I appreciate you watching the video, and I will catch you in the next one.